Hi, everyone, and welcome to season 2 of From the Head's Desk. I'm Dave, and he's Peter. And we're excited to be back for a brand new school year and with a brand new series of From the Head's Desk podcasts. And, the start of a new year always brings new folks to campus, new projects, new initiatives. So, Peter, maybe we can start by just talking about what's new for 25-26 here at St. Stephen's.
Well, thanks, Dave. And of course, what's not new is my having a chance to do these with you on a regular basis, which I really enjoy. So thanks for
Same here.
taking the time, those of you who are listening, and thanks to Dave for setting this up. Gosh, what's new? Where to start? We opened the Pullen Center last night. We're taping this on Friday. What an extraordinary facility for the school. We had well over 200 people to celebrate. What an achievement and the legacy that will continue. We can't wait to have every student, from the fledglings all the way up through 12th grade, have a chance to get in there. We have a host of new faculty. I won't go through all of them, but boy, are they good and exciting and excited to be here. If you walk around campus, you'll see a bunch of improvements. We've got everything that you can see, like new flower beds and turf. The things that you can't see, but you sure can feel, a new chiller for the lower school, intermediate school. Sooner rather than later, we'll have a bunch of banners around campus celebrating our new logo. We have a new schedule that goes until 3:10, which I know can be a little inconvenient, but boy, is it going to help us, because not only can we align all of our divisions, and I'll speak a little bit more about that in a second, but it also gives us additional contact time for literacy and numeracy and all the foundational skills that we want. We've got different approaches in the lower school. We have bridges from last year, and they're looking at our literacy program. There's what's called the WIN program, which stands for What I Need Now, in the intermediate school and the lower school for kids to tailor their learning. The middle school is experimenting with some neat crossover between 7th and 8th grade. The upper school is looking at STEAM signature programs. And to top it off, we have a new director of student affairs in grades 7 through 12, not to mention any number of other things, but I'll stop there because after a while you stop losing track.
So, really, not much going on.
No, not much. But, I think what's always important to remember is while things change, they'd also stay the same. And, what's never going to change is the culture and the culture of kindness and the promise that every kid in person will be known and valued.
Well, one thing you didn't mention that you and I've been working on this summer is streamlining some communications and implementing in particular, a new alert system that I know kind of grew out of some of the challenges we had last year. Can you talk a little bit more about that, Peter?
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. And let's start with security. We spent a great deal of time in the spring and over the summer reviewing and in some cases revising our emergency response. We have a brand new emergency response manual. Many of you already have experienced that we're going to have a single entry gate from a little bit after 8 a.m. through 5 after 3 p.m. for security reasons. But one of the most tangible changes we're making is implementing what's called the one call system. And it not only will call you, hence the name, but also in any time there's an emergency or major inclement weather, people will receive a call, they'll get an email and a text. Now, there are a couple caveats there. We need to make sure, families listening to this, that you have all of your most updated information on SSES online. We'll need you to opt into receiving texts. Unfortunately, well, maybe not unfortunately, but the law is such that we can't bypass that. So if you want to receive those texts, you'll need to opt in, and Dave will have information. And then if you do receive a call from an 877 number, it very well may not be a spam call. So we'll just ask you, once you get that first communication from us, and we'll probably do a test drive of it just to mark that in your book. In terms of other types of communications, and again, that one I just described, one call, that's only for emergencies. So we are never going to have just a general information on that channel. That's all about emergency situations. but we're trying to consolidate. So we're starting something called the Link Tree, where every week on Friday, starting this coming Friday, the 22nd, um, we'll capture the newsletters from each division, athletics information, technology, other things, all in a single email. Number one, you won't have to figure out, had as many emails coming to you. And secondly, even if you don't have a child in another division, you'll be able to learn what they're doing. Eventually, we'll roll out another pretty interesting thing, but we're going to hold off on that for now because, well, one thing at a time.
Well, I did preview that thing with the Parents Association folks this morning, and they were very excited about it.
Good.
So, we'll stay tuned for that.
Yeah, good teaser there.
Yeah, and, speaking of communications, Peter, I know last year something that was really popular with these roundtables that you did, opportunities for parents to come in and just kinda sit with you, talk with you, ask questions that they might have. So I know you plan to bring those back this year and continue those. Can you talk a little bit about those and how they work?
Absolutely. So the purpose on this is pretty basic. It's to open the door and invite folks to come in. There's no agenda, there's no PowerPoints, it's not on a presentation or a slide deck. It's really just a chance for folks to come in and ask questions. And what I always promise is I'll be as transparent and straightforward as I can. Of course, there are things I can't always talk about, but 90+% of the time I can, and I do. So it's a chance for me to hear what's on people's minds. It's a chance to connect with families, either whom I've already gotten a chance to know or maybe haven't. They're held every quarter. They're held 2 times in the day, once in the morning and once in the early afternoon, first of which will be on September 15th. So if you'd like to come in and chat or just listen, the first one of those will be they're always on Mondays, and the first will be the 15th of September.
So let's change gears a little bit. I know every year you share with the entire community kind of your priorities for the year ahead, and we will have those linked in the email that accompanies this podcast. But can you share some of the highlights of that?
Yeah, my pleasure. Dave, it always starts with relationships. So my priority year over year over year over year over year is going to be building and maintaining strong relationships with our students, their families, and our employees. So my priority, although it may not seem like it's that particularly fancy or impressive, it's still the most important thing I do, and that's go to games, be in car line, set up advisory lunches with students. I'm going to meet not only with upper schoolers this year, but also with middle schoolers. Um, those relationships extend to that culture of kindness that I talk a lot about, continuing to ingrain that. And again, we don't always get that right, but it's really starting to stick. And just this morning, we had a situation I was working on where people weren't being kind. Um, but we were able to lean in on that. Those relationships extend beyond our fences. And so another priority is really to leverage the Pullen Center to connect to the broader community. In terms of academics and student experience, these are, by the way, are the headings of our strategic plan. I've talked a lot recently about a Falcon's journey. That's going to be a multi-year effort. We're going to focus on assessment and curricular design and really finding students' abilities and passions and then leaning into them to make sure that they can have a signature achievement. Signatures are important here, and one we're also going to develop is a STEM or a STEAM signature program. In terms of the non-academic side, we've really focused even more on student wellness and who do students go to or who do adults go to if things aren't always right. So we've added Frank Cassain, my chief of staff. Our head girls volleyball coach is also going to be the director of student affairs for grades 7 to 12. And Kevin Sutton, who not only is our new assistant director of enrollment management and head basketball coach, he's also going to be a college recruitment specialist. So he's going to work with students and families who are interested in playing collegiate athletics. Two other things that are pretty important, but I'll just move through them reasonably quickly. But long-term sustainability of the school. So we talk a lot about philanthropy, and just a reminder that We really have three major buckets. So our people bucket is the annual fund, which we'll launch in November, and you'll hear plenty more about that. Our program bucket, whether that's facilities or the actual curricular or athletic programs, that's the gala and Rock the Mac for athletics. And then our future bucket, if you will, the one that really sustains us, is our endowment. And then you mix in some capital campaigns like the one we just had. We're very aware that we have to be thoughtful about cost containment. So we've done a lot of work over the summer on that and continue to say more on that. And we want to continue to lean in as a priority and continuing to reduce our attrition. Attrition is the number of students who don't return to St. Stephen. I'm thrilled to say that for the first time, at least in the last 10 years, we've moved that attrition rate well below the average of NAIS schools. Our next step is just to continue to move that lower.
So, folks that tuned in last year to the podcast heard quite a bit about the Falcons' journey, but something I think that really bears repeating as we start a new school year. And this is a project that's kind of be an ongoing project that's going to evolve over the years. But maybe you can just remind folks a little bit about the Falcons' journey and the aspects of that and how that impacts all of us here at St. Stephen's.
Yeah, the short version is we need to know kids and find out, help them discover over time what are they passionate about, what are their talents, and then work with them to design, and it really is individualized, a program where they can have what I like to refer to as that signature achievement, one that not only aligns with their passions, but also stretches them beyond where they would have gone otherwise. And frankly, probably wouldn't have been possible without coming here, but it takes time. We know that. So it's also a longitudinal process. I'll just give you one example, and it was the one actually that Mr. Hasbrook mentioned yesterday. So I hope I'm not embarrassing his son Carter when I bring this up. But when Carter first came to St. Stephen's, he would have identified himself as someone who's, really, his extracurriculars were solely athletic. But over time, he was able to find his passion for the arts and particularly for theater. And now is one of our mainstays in the theater program. So those are the kind of things we're trying to do is help a young person just discover what's most important to them. And we'll do a lot of different things to get to that point, but I think at the end, that's the core of it. And I'm really excited about it. It's built on our promise that's been, the bedrock here forever, which is every student will be known and valued. Now we take that principle and just go deeply into it to say, how can we develop those passions and talents best?
I know, on our website and other places, we've always talked about our mission, our vision, and our value and our promise. But we've this year kind of added to that with our educational values. So if folks go to our website and they are to click on that section about the mission, they will now find our educational values. And this is something that folks often ask me about when I tell them that I work at St. Stephen's. What are the values of the school? So, so if someone asked you that, Peter, how would you answer that question?
Well, I've given a lot of thought to this. I think it starts again with respect and our Episcopal tradition that we honor the dignity and worth of all people. We have three tenets that we really live by. One is that we value expressive freedom and nonpartisanship. And by that, what I mean is we value that people have different opinions and have the right within boundaries. We're never going to tolerate, hateful things, but they have the right to have different opinions. And we will certainly not indoctrinate or drive politics into the classroom. I'll be honest with you, I work in schools where that happened. And we have no interest in that. We have an interest in respecting the dignity of all people's thoughts and words and deeds. We value independence. So we value being free from mandates by the state or the federal government, that we can drive our curriculum as we see fit and appropriate. And intellectual pluralism, which is a fancy real name, not just for the ability to have different opinions, but actually to actively seek them out. To say, well, what does one person think about a topic, and then what does another person think? And what does a third person think? Again, not to try to tell people what they should think, but to expose them to enough different thoughts and opinions that they can ultimately arrive at their own. And then last, we value people from different cultures and backgrounds. Again, this is our Episcopal tradition, but it's also a school that has so long believed in a world and global based education. So I've long felt that to prepare our children for the world in which they're living, we need to expose them to the local and world issues and considering the views of others and engaging with those from different cultures and backgrounds. And again, we're in good company because that's exactly what the Episcopal Church believes in, the respect and dignity of all.
And I think growing from that is something that we've talked about for throughout your tenure and even prior to your tenure, and that's the culture of kindness that is here on campus and that we have kind of made part of our larger cultures, that culture of kindness. Can you share maybe with our audience again why that's so important to you and what that looks like here at St. Stephen's, that culture of kindness?
Yeah, of course. I mean, first and foremost, it's what we want ourselves and our children to be. We want them to be good people. And part of being a good person is to treat yourself, because there's self kindness, and others thoughtfully. Um, but the important thing, I think, is it goes beyond just being nice or being kind. It's really about being your best self and having that ability and that safety to do that. So, one of the quotations that I love is from a scholar who writes that traditional applications of kindness or civility that emphasize manners and behavior over meaningful engagement, that's a fool's errand. What we need is respectful honesty. And I think what he means by that is a culture of kindness is critical to also having an intellectual climate where you can have challenging and honest conversations. So, yes, of course, we want young people to be thoughtful and kind and good to others and civically engaged and believe in something larger themselves and to inculcate the values of the Episcopal tradition that we so deeply hold dear. But we also want to create an intellectual environment based on that that allows kids to be their best selves.
And I don't know how this feels to you, but I know that to me, this has gone by in a flash, that this is the start of your 3rd year on campus. How's it feel to you?
Well, you're right. It has gone by quickly. It feels great. I felt immediately welcomed at St. Stephen's, and as did my wife and my family. You know, y- when you're new anywhere, and I've been in a number of schools, the first years you're listening and learning, and, sometimes you're having to make some really hard decisions. But more often than not, what you're really trying to do is understand the culture and the school. And then in year 2, you're trying to put people in place. If you feel like, hey, this person has a wonderful talent, they could even be more successful in this role or that role, or sometimes you bring in somebody from the outside. And then you start to troubleshoot. You figure like, okay, so where are the areas we need to lean in? Year 3 is the year you have to execute now, and this is the year that, again, building on history, the traditions, the promise, we start to lean in and really say, "Let's get after it," and that's really what that Falcons journey is, and I've been working on a vision with a lot of folks, and this is not in any way, shape, or form, fully baked, but somebody said, "What's your vision for the school?" And I never say my vision because, first of all, it's not my vision, it's our vision. Second of all, that's the fastest way to get yourself in trouble when you're reading others, is to think that somehow it's all about you. But what we want to do really is enable students to discover their talents and passions and give them opportunities for signature achievements. And how we're going to do that is we're going to offer a premier combination of academics. And by the way, when I say academics, I always include the arts. My own family has a very deep background in the arts, but offering a premier combination of academics and athletics. And we can and do make good on that promise, and we're just going to continue to lean in. So it'll take time, and we'll trial and error, and everyone's going to need to pull in the same direction, but we'll get there. And I can't wait to be part of the journey, and I'm delighted with every day I come on this campus. I just I think sometimes I truly am just the luckiest person alive to have this chance to be at a place like this.
Well, we're all excited to be part of this journey, and thank you folks for tuning in today to be part of this journey, season 2 of the From the Heads Desk podcast. We're gonna have great content for you all year long, interviews with exciting and interesting folks, and we hope you'll join us throughout the entire school year. So, thanks for joining us today, and go Falcons.
Welcome back, folks.